Hey, Pete.
Hey, Adam.
Is this a live thing?
I think this is a live thing. Yep.
I'm Adam Maness.
And I'm Peter Martin.
And you're listening to the You'll Hear It podcast.
Daily jazz advice coming at you.
That D flat there is...
That's like a ringtone, man. Why'd you hit it again? Now it's never going to stop.
I mean, for such a huge piece of junk, the Kranikenbach has amazing sustain.
I mean, it's like, it's all day. Let's see if it'll sustain the whole episode.
I think the soundboard on this thing is made up of old, like, British warships, like wood from old, like, you know what I mean? Like,
this whole place would burn down and it would still be here.
For sure.
So it's good to be here on a big Wednesday. Hump Day. Yes.
It is Hump Day.
Today
you got
is
it
Hump
right.
Day. Today
It's
is Hump Day, yeah.
Day.
And this is fun because we're actually recording the episode while we're live. So big shout out to YouTube Nation. Everybody joining us for the live stream. We're having some fun today. And we're projecting ourselves into the next week as we like to do on Wednesday.
Heck yeah.
And today we're kind of going back into some controversial territory, which we don't do often because we usually step in it when we do. Have you noticed that?
Yes, but I think we do this, to our credit, we do this more than we should.
Yeah.
And we tend to brave into these waters on the regular, I think. And
Yeah.
you know, this isn't that controversial because there's an overwhelming opinion on the subject that we're talking about today, and especially amongst people who know about music. And we're talking today about this recent Katy Perry decision about copyright infringement, where Katy Perry recently lost a lawsuit to a Christian rap artist named Flame,
Who's from St. Louis. Which
he
I
really?
didn't know that until 10 minutes ago.
Oh, I had no idea. So there's a couple of St. Louis connections.
There's some St. Louis connection. Yeah, he's from St. Louis. I think he lives here. I wasn't familiar with him. His given name is Marcus Gray.
Yeah.
Flame, young guy,
Nice.
talented. Has nominated, if not won, Dove Awards, Grammy Awards. I mean, he's like, you know.
A Dove
real
Award,
deal.
is that like a Christian?
It's a Christian Grammy Award.
I had
It's
no
really
idea.
big, yeah.
The more you know. Always
The
be
more
learning.
you
ABL.
know. ABL. Hashtag it. Hashtag it.
So he has this song, Joyful Noise, comes out a few years before Katy Perry's huge hit, Dark Horse, came out, which I think 2013.
2013, and
Yeah.
this was Flame was 2008, so you know quite a bit of time for it to marinate in the consciousness, possibly. And we should also just say this is not just it's Katy Perry, Capitol Records, some other writers, producers.
Right.
It's kind of a whoever's involved with the copyright, I guess the writing and the dissemination of that copyright. So
Right.
it's not just we don't want to pin this all on Katy Perry, although she seems most likely to be able to afford to pay this. Right.
Well, I mean, the common thread through all these things we're going to talk about today is that the people that are getting sued, it's like mega hits, right? It's like nobody's suing, Joe Schmo singer-songwriter down the corner for stealing, Pachelbel's Canon a million times. But
I mean, I would be so honored to be like sued for stealing something from like Thelonious Monk or something. Yeah, sue me for that. That's like so like, oh, I sound too much like Monk. My bad.
yeah,
you
no,
know?
exactly. Yeah, I mean, we owe Herbie Hancock so much money.
Yeah.
All of us.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I imitated Herbie again. You heard it.
Every time I do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man.
All right, so let's
Isn't it
check
a great
out.
thing that jazz is just so inside baseball and indecipherable. No one could ever sue anybody. They don't. I mean, we're ripping people off all the time. Actually,
Everybody is though, so that's going to be, I think, the overwhelming point of this is that
Yeah.
this is just. It's getting ridiculous out here. Okay, so let's just play a little bit of Joyful Noise. This is something that we can do because we're not as big of a podcast as Adam Neely, who, by the way, had a great video on this.
yes. Let's link to that below.
Andrew
for
linked
sure.
to that video for sure.
He's only got 1.9 million views. Come on.
Jealous much?
Yeah.
All right, so here's a little bit of Joyful Noise. Okay, that's all we're doing.
Okay.
All right,
Well,
so
that's all.
but
I
that's
think
all you really need.
that-
We were not even going to play the
in
melody.
terms of what the attorneys presented. This is what it's really about.
Right. So let's hear a little bit of Dark Horse. I'm going to try to find the spot.
Not yet. Wait for it.
I'm capable of anything.
Here it is.
Yeah.
Of anything and everything.
Okay. A little
Back with you.
faster, different key.
Yeah.
But it's funny because everybody's calling this an ostinato, which I mean, both in the trial and the videos about this.
Don't get too far from your headphones, by the way. I have more
Oh, sorry.
examples.
Okay. Am I ready to
No,
go?
we can put it back on. I'm just saying.
ostinato, which, I'm so ignorant with my jargon.
Yeah.
There was a lot of jargon apparently being thrown out in this. And Adam Neely uses the word jargon, I think, really correctly. But then he uses a bunch of jargon. To me, this whole thing of like, you know what? I'm always thinking of like a bass ostinato.
That's traditionally where a jazz musician would use an ostinato.
Yes.
But it's a correct usage as even a high secondary line that in this case, in the Joyful Noise case, helped develop the beat. In the Dark Horse case, I think it's like less a part of the actual like beat of the song, more of just like a counter melody happening or a texture even.
But apparently they got into a whole thing of playing these parts for the jury. This was in LA like a week ago too. I mean, this is very recent.
Very, very recent.
And it was all about, like, for what I always thought, my very limited legal musical mind was, things like you can't copyright a bass line, you can't copyright a groove, and these kind of things.
Chord changes.
You can't copyright chord changes. But what they presented, so it was always about stealing melody and or lyrics, and especially any kind of connection between those. That's when they would get you.
So these were the old Tin Pan Alley copyright laws that were really guiding the industry for years and years and years, decades and decades and decades.
Remember that law firm, Tin Pan Alley and Associates? They defended many of these cases. I do not know if that's true. That would be interesting, though, wouldn't it?
Absolutely not true.
That's not true.
Yeah.
We don't know that.
No, but you know what? Like this is a very important point to make that.
Truly, that's
as
what
I
we're
just
doing here.
kind of BS my way through this episode. No, that for years and years you could take the chord changes from a. I mean, we're jazz musicians. We have a million songs over "I Got Rhythm."
Yeah.
The blues. Like there's so many that there's a what's that word I'm trying to think of a counterfact.
Counterfact.
Of like Donna Lee is Indiana.
Yeah.
And, all these different kind of
Layering
things.
a different melody over chord changes in form, basically.
Exactly right.
Which
So-
was certainly stealing a certain amount or borrowing or taking, lifting.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah. But they presented this, they weren't even trying to say they stole the melody.
No. That's what I'm
But
saying.
they kind of tried to say that this dun 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 is a melody.
Right.
Without actually saying that. They're calling it an ostinato. I'm like, an ostinato is not a melody, but in the original, apparently, that's the most prominent melodic component. But then they're also adding in the sound, like the synth sound. And Adam Neely's thing is like, they don't sound anything like each other. And I'm like, yeah, they kind of do.
I mean, a little bit, but not. It's a very different vibe for me. I think what boils down, and the other ones will play. I have another example that we can play, a more famous one, even I think. But it seems like that these these attorneys probably, I'm guessing, or who are driving this they're trying to like copyright a vibe.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, so if the vibe is similar enough for a recorded piece of music, then that is apparently copyright theft, intellectual property theft. And
isn't doesn't this kind of go back to the whole Pharrell, Marvin Gaye?
So that's
Robin
my
thing?
that's my.
Because that was was that what we're gonna listen to?
I have it queued up. Yeah. So
because that I gotta say that was.
This
stolen.
was.
But I love Marvin Gaye, so
this is I know. This is a classic example of maybe like getting really, really close to the vibe, if not lifting the vibe completely. This is Marvin Gaye's "Got to Give It Up." Now, we don't even actually have to get into the melodies of this because they're not similar at all. They're not the same
apparently melody. That's not even the legal
That's
the legal barrier anymore.
And
anyway,
then blurred lines.
Yeah.
Everybody get up.
Some background noises, which is a
kind of
similar.
Marvin-esque a little bit, maybe.
I mean, there's actually
It's not
nothing.
as good though. That's my thing.
Of course, it's not as good.
But how come somebody? Why can't it just be enough to be like, look, Pharrell is not as maybe innovative or creative or interesting as Marvin Gaye and the folks that created that original. So he obviously stole something from it, or he's influenced and maybe he's building off of it. Why can't it just be enough to be like, hey, everybody, go listen to the original, so at least you'll make some money off it? Why does it have to be same thing with this Katy Perry thing? Yeah, maybe she heard it, maybe somebody stole a little bit of it, but we're all taking things. There's nothing that we really own. I think unless you're taking the actual words and the melody, then you're doing a version of them.
I agree.
You know what I mean?
I think it's a very gray area, and it's frankly, for lack of a better term, it's a slippery slope here because, like when the Marvin Gaye Robin Thicke thing happened, I remember saying to someone at the time, like, are we really going to copyright vibe here, or is everybody just like loving Marvin Gaye more than Robin Thicke, which is a natural thing to do.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
You know what I mean? So of course, like, oh yeah, like they ripped off, like they were obviously were influenced by Got to Give It Up when they made Blurred Lines. But you know, are we going to go back and should we really go back in history to like early R&B, early blues, early rock and roll?
Did
John
he steal
Coltrane
from Lester Young?
I mean, does every jazz drummer owe Kenny Clark a check for Walk the Dog? You know what I'm saying? Like for creating a vibe with a walking bass line, and you know,
in jazz, there's just not enough money for anyone to get interested. Partly,
although
occasionally there is. You talk about blockbuster records, Keith Jarrett, Miles Davis, different artists in jazz that actually have generated enough to warrant that. But I think that there's more of a feeling in jazz of a shared cultural and common language, and there's more generosity in terms of like, don't steal my lick and this kind of thing. I mean, you get a little bit of that, but I don't know of any big lawsuits within jazz. Plus, the juries can't understand it. That's the bottom line. They were able to get the jury, and we'd be remiss if we didn't bring up another St. Louis connection here, a certain Todd Decker, who apparently was sort of the musicologist of note, of record in this case.
Yeah,
he's
on the Flame side of things.
Right. And he's a musicology professor here at Washington University, just blocks from where we are now.
Yeah.
And he apparently was instrumental in convincing, with, according to Adam Neely, his overuse of musical jargon that they didn't understand. They played him this thing, and then they had this guy who's like supposed to be an expert in this explain to them how it was stolen in words that they didn't really, musical words that the layman didn't understand. This is according to Adam Neely. I wasn't at the trial.
I kind of agree with Adam Neely, actually.
So, I mean, yeah, slippery slope and the blame. I mean, to me, it's just like, everybody go home, make some more music. Like, don't waste your time suing each other about this kind of. There's so much more other music. Does this speak more to just the dearth of ideas and creativity out there now? I mean, dun 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 dun, or dun 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 dun. That's the two versions of this supposedly stolen ostinato.
Yeah,
I'm like, come up with some other notes, or I don't know. Maybe I'm too anti-basic or something.
No, I
don't even know what I'm saying. I don't even know whose side I'm on.
I'm not really sure where you're landing on this, bro.
I want to. You know where I'm landing? I want to get a piece of this $2.78 million that was awarded. Can I get a little bit?
I know. Well, that's the thing. So if you're not hip to this, Katy Perry did lose the lawsuit and had to pay damages. Almost
didn't have to pay. They've been awarded, but apparently there's going to be a bunch. This is just the beginning.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, because I heard an interview with Mike Kahn, who's a St. Louis attorney, who's the lead attorney on this. Who said he's already told his client Flame, he's like, nothing's being paid now. There's going to be a bunch of injunctions. They are talking about settlements, maybe whatever. But I mean, so the final thing hasn't been said on this. But I mean, I was just thinking about Bruno Mars. He's beloved. He's stolen so many.
The exact how
come nobody's suing him?
How has Sting not sued Bruno Mars?
I know.
How is, like
the Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Oh my gosh! His whole career is based on Lenny Kravitz too,
Maurice
of
White.
like really getting close to some old influences, maybe a little too close to the sun. But I'm better with letting that go. Than I am with the other way, where now everybody's on lockdown. Like, how much can I borrow from this? Because sometimes you know how it is when you're writing or creating something. Sometimes you'll go back to it and be like, holy cow, I think I just wrote We Are the World.
I know. And you didn't go out to do it.
No.
But
it's just in your head, or it's in the zeitgeist or something. And
I think if the melody isn't so similar and you're not using the same word, I mean, that's where really traditionally, and I believe in that, where you get into theft. I mean, like, what are the chances that you're going to come up with that same melody and the same words? Okay, then you're just playing another song.
Yeah.
And so, there's probably a slippery slope, or there's some gray areas in there.
I think so.
But to me, blurred lines, this is some blurred lines.
I think unless it's an obvious plagiarism.
Yeah.
I think vibe and zeitgeist and these things that get in the air of music, I think we got to let it go.
Well, this is
even on these two cases, which I do think were intentionally a little too close to the line.
Yeah.
I still think it's like, come on, you got to let that go.
Well, now apparently this has got to be opening up the floodgates, because you're getting more. It's becoming accepted. The attorneys were even saying, we're not saying they stole the music or the words or anything. They didn't claim any of that. It was the vibe, the ostinato, and then they start. We don't even know what an ostinato is, and we're trained musicians.
Copyright that. Come on, you can't do that. All right.
All right. Well, we are brought to you by Open Studio. Did you know that?
I did know that.
Am I rushing too closely to our little ending here?
No, I mean, you are kind of ripping off 100 other podcasts by having a sponsor at the end.
I know, yeah. But and we're at a brand new home. Please join us there. We're getting so much just love and satisfaction from being there. OpenStudioJazz.com. Same great artists. same great content, but some new content. Can you tell them about our latest course?
So the cool thing with the new platform that we're on, shout out to Podia, by the way, great platform, is we could add things like quizzes that are integrate seamlessly within the lessons. You can see what lesson you were just on. It kind of gets crossed out at the end.
A sense of completion.
Very much so. And it's so easy to make. It's a lot easier even for us to make the content better. Like we've added stuff like practice routines, things like more play-alongs, more living notation, more transcriptions, more workbooks, more worksheets, things like that. But it's really, really exciting then.
Yeah, and we've already, from the short time we've been there, just a few weeks, we've already have 2 new courses. So I would encourage people, if you're interested, check out our All Access Pass. We have 2 new courses already.
Have you checked out Edu Ribeiro's new Brazilian jazz drumming course?
Amazing. It's mind blowing.
I'm going to put this out here. That's one of the best drummers I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah,
Edu Ribeiro. Yeah, check it out.
Check it out. So that's exciting. And then we have the You'll Hear It Premium, which is kind of jumping off, which is available there. You can go to you'llhearit.com actually. And sign up there just for some extras, really more about like supporting the podcast and becoming a part of that community. We're starting to get some nice commenting and back and forth from You'll Hear It listeners. So if you're deep into it, join us there. If not, join us here. It's all good. Yeah. We love you. YouTube, Apple, Stitcher, keep stitching, all that kind of good stuff. We got anything else?
Just for our people who are live with us right now.
Oh, we're pretending like they're not there. Until we get to the band.
If you're listening Wednesday, it's too late. But if you're live with us here on YouTube, stick around. We have 2 more episodes to record after this.
That's right.
If you're listening on Wednesday, come back.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, I like what you were going with this. Let me try that again. No edits though, Andrew.
We never edit.
If you're listening on
edit. Okay.
If you're listening on Wednesday,
you'll hear it.